welcome to Scrappin with Sheri and page 61 in our sketchbook. Now, when I look at this sketch, this doesn't necessarily appeal to me. There's a lot going on here, but I am going to try to do it as closely to the sketch as possible. I've been looking at what I wanted to use for this, and I pulled a couple of sheets from the Welcome Home collection. I just love this. I love the colors with the blues and the greens and the brownie outdoor stuff. So I pulled a couple of pieces of that, and I pulled some stickers from a couple of various things, a couple of borders. We'll see what we end up with out of this. I'm not convinced I'm going to love this page layout, but it's worth giving it a shot, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is create this part right here that has our borders on it. And this was kind of tricky to me. It looks like maybe you could layer the borders and cut them out as circles, but I'm going to make this as an overlay piece and then make the borders behind it. So it shows us on the sketchbook, let me just pull this up, that this dark outer piece is 3.5 by 12. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out of this piece of paper right here using my 12-inch trimmer. And we're going 3.5 by 12. So I've got that, and I think what I'm going to do is cut my circles directly into that, but then I'm going to make me another piece behind there that I'm going to lay out my border strips on. So I'm going to make this just, I think I'll just go ahead and make just a touch smaller than 3.5, because this is what I'm going to create the border on to layer all of that background part. I hope that makes sense. So this will be my top one. Now, what I'm seeing on here is that there are 3 circles, and it says they are 3.5-inch circles. So I pulled this pattern from my circle cutting system, and it is the largest circle. I'm going inside with the red blade, and I figured the easiest way to do this is to kind of line up one of them. Now I'm using my 13-inch mat. I'm going to kind of line up this one in the center of this whole thing. And I do that by looking at my 6 inches here. We also have these rubbery feet on the bottom of this. I don't know what to call them, but we've got those, and they are at the quarter marks, which helps me get this sort of even across my 6-inch lines here, because I figure if I can center this one, it's going to make the rest easier. And I'm going red blade on the inside, and that creates about a 3.5-inch circle. Now I'm going to save these circles I cut out because I will be doing a facing page at some point in time, and I want to make sure that I have pieces that will help coordinate. So to do this next one, what I'm doing is I'm looking at this outline of the second circle piece, and I'm just trying to get it kind of equidistant between the bottom and that other circle. And I can already tell that my spacing on mine is not going to be exactly the same as what they had on theirs, but it's okay. My customers are just loving it when I say, it's just paper, it's just paper. They think that's so funny. And again, I'm kind of going equidistant between the top and the middle circle. I think there's going to be so much going on with that border that you're probably not even going to be able to tell if this is equal or not. So what I'm thinking is to build my border on this and then lay this over the top, but I'm not sure that's going to give us any contrast. So we might have to go with something like that. So I'm going to keep working on my mat. I'm going to put my circle away. Let's see what we can do to build this border. Now, my thoughts were, I think I want this to go on this outside edge, but instead of using 2 of these to do that outside edge, I think I'll split this one in half. And here again, I'm going to use my 12-inch trimmer to do that. Now, this is a pretty thin little border, and I'm just trying to get it lined up centered on my cutting line. It's easier said than done. Yeah, obviously that is so not centered, but we can make that work. And I'm going to use my silicone mat. And what I'm going to do here is just kind of run repositionable adhesive right down the edge of this. Because really all I'm trying to do is get a little bit of this blue border showing along that outside edge. I'm doing that just to create some contrast. And with the look of everything going on, it's easier actually to look at it from the back side rather than the front side. A lot of pattern going on. Okay, and let's go ahead and add this other one. I'm not worried that they don't match because that piece is going to be over the top, I hope. Now, if this turns out really, really ugly, we'll just say, hey, at least we gave it a try. We're still trying to do more in 24, so at least we give things a shot, right? Well, it would help if I put it on the side with the tape on it. Okay, looks pretty even to me. And then the next thing we're going to do is create this border in the middle that this is going to go over. Now, I said we were going to cover that up, but look, it's not covering it right there. So maybe we do need to put it on the back side. I kind of had an idea in my head of where I was going with this page, but it's already evolving, and that's kind of the way things happen. You start with one idea, and your colors don't work, or something doesn't fit just right, or you cut something wrong, and you end up with something totally different. But in the end, if you like it, it's okay. All right, I think that's going to work better. And we'll be able to layer this. So I think what I need to do is create my border through the middle. And I've got to figure out what pieces I want to use to do that. So I really like the blue, and I do want to keep a good bit of the blue. But I'm also wanting to pull in some browns, some tans, some greens. I think these are basically the same either side, so I don't think that matters. And I thought about pulling in one of these just to add some more interest. Let's just go ahead and put this down. Now this is brown on one side, blue on the other. And if you know me, you know I'm kind of focusing on the blues. And I'm just going to try to center this somewhat. I'm laying it out on my mat to try and be able to do that. This is probably going to be the hardest part of it, is getting these borders reasonably straight on here. I think these on the sides would be pretty, but I feel like I need something in the middle. And I'm thinking I may just pull this blue sticker to go up through the middle. I like this, but it doesn't have any blue in it. And I'm kind of trying to keep the blues pretty prevalent. So let's line this up once more. And I'm just going to take this right up through here. Okay. It doesn't show up a lot. Now, when I looked at this border on the idea page, on the sketch, the first thing I thought was, wow, what a great way to use up lots of little pieces. You really need full borders to make this work. So it's not going to be a use up pieces. But what I found is that in my Welcome Home folder, I had a lot of border stripes where I had bought multiples because there was one or two that I liked really well. So this is a good way to use up some of the pieces from that collection. It's just not necessarily scraps. They're just more like leftovers. All right. So I think that's all I'll need on this. It's a little heavy, but I've got some outdoorsy pictures in mind that I think will work for this. A lot going on with that patterns background too. Fortunately, this is just the border, right? This is not going to be where my pictures are all going to go. All right. So we've got that, and then we're going to layer this. If I could keep my hands on it, back on top of that, and it just kind of cuts it down a little bit. Well, that's not too bad. I'll tell you something I want to do before I layer that, though, is I want to add some pen to that. Now, I love using my journaling pens just to add some element of interest. And I do a good bit of dashes and dots when I just feel like there needs to be some definition. Kind of like sewing. And you're just adding a little border around that. It's not perfect. It's not exact. I'm not measuring. It's just going to help define that circle there. And you can tell they're way off. But it kind of gives it a, I don't know, more of a homemade feel, I suppose, is the right word. Alright, so that adds some definition to those circles without being too much. And then we're going to use our repositionable tape and make sure that we get this taped pretty well. I'm especially trying to get the corners and these little side pieces because they're small and I don't want them getting caught in the page protector when I slide it across. And to put this down, I think I'm going to go from the bottom and just line this up on that little background piece of paper I cut. Remember, I cut it just a hair smaller than 3.5. And we're just going to be sure that we cover up the background part on the sides. And I'm looking to make sure I've got my distance is pretty much the same. I do have a sticker piece sticking out right there at the top. So I'm going to trim those off with my scissors. And there's that border. Not too bad. So the last thing that we've got to do is add our background page. Now my background is really, really busy. And that's part of the reason that I chose to put this border beside this. I felt like that would separate the border from the busy background. And it does work reasonably well. Still, that's a really busy page. So why don't we go back and add some of this that we cut off of here to make our mats. Now, they've only added 2 photos on here with a big journal box strip in the middle. I think what I want to do is add a full-size mat using this paper so I can use 3 horizontal pictures here. So let me grab another sheet of this paper. So I've got a full sheet of it. I don't want to cover up every little bit of the flower there, but I'm going to make this about a 4 1/4 because you know I like skinny mats. Let's see. No, we're going to have to make it 6 1/4 because we're doing horizontals. Let's do it the right way. I'm glad I thought of that before I cut. 6 1/4 for horizontals. And I'm going to cut just about 1/2 inch off the bottom. That just gives me more room for my blue flowers to show around the outside edge. But it doesn't take away from anything. So we'll put our border on. I'm going to use my regular tape for that because I don't really have to tape that border strip again. I'm just taping it onto this background. And I'm putting it pretty close to the edge. And then we've got this 6 1/4 width and 11 1/2 height, which should be enough for 3 horizontal pictures or 2 horizontals with some decoration in the middle, but it helps cut down that the busyness of the flowers just a little bit. I think I'll go this way with it. Maybe not. Maybe I'll center it in that space. Okay, so we've got that done. Now, really the only thing I have not done is the title here with this circle, and I haven't added my photos yet, but that's our next step, is to add our photos to this page. Okay, so the pictures for this page were pretty easy for me. I had told you that my kids gave me a photo shoot for Mother's Day, and so I've got a picture of all of us girls, all of the boys, and then one family picture. And I developed these as 4x6s, so I knew they would fit my space here. And all I've got to do is cut a little bit off of this one, and I should be able to put all 3 of these right through the middle of that mat that I created. The good thing about this is the backgrounds of these are kind of dark, so that's going to leave me not having to do any matting on the pictures themselves, because they're going to show up beautifully against that lighter color background that we had added. Now remember, we added that background just to take away some of this busy floral, but I knew making the page ahead of time that the colors of the pictures would probably work well with this. But look how great those look on that. So let's go ahead and stick those, and then we'll add a couple of embellishments and we'll be finished with this page. I love the theme of this paper anyway because it was called Welcome Home. And I know some of you probably have grown children, grandchildren, whatever. And there's just something special about when all your people are back at your place. And for me, anytime we can get all of the kids together, it's just a party for me. I just love every minute of it. So using Welcome Home just felt kind of right, with the kids all being in one spot again. All right, so 3 quick pictures there. I did pull a couple of embellishments too from the Welcome Home collection. I love this one that says home, and then I like this that pulls out a little bit more of the green. And I'm gonna just add this one straight down. I'm gonna pull it right down here and kind of take up some of this extra spot. These pictures, I mean, aside from the fact that the children were actually at our house again, which is always great, these were taken right in front of our house on the big rock in front of our house. So that's pretty special to have them all home and the pictures right in front of our house. This is where my kids grew up, where my 2 youngest ones actually came home from the hospital. So these pictures are really special, and using the Welcome Home embellishments and papers with it just make it really special to me. Nobody else is going to know the meaning behind all of that, but for me it's pretty important. All right, so this page is finished, and we have completed that page in our sketchbook now, and we're ready to move on to the next one. So until I see you next time, happy scrapping.